All right, tonight's project is to get this Briggs Vanguard out of this 318, figure out all the electrical connections, stuff like that. I have already removed the front hood and the front grille and everything. And I've also removed the choke and the throttle cable. The choke cable was connected to here through a bolt and a washer, and then the throttle cable was connected here, and basically it runs through over here and then pulls that way. So that's that. Unfortunately, this has been cut. Evidently, there's some type of bracket that related to the head or something in here that is no longer here, because you can see that's been cut right there. It's got a little bit of a rough edge, so have to figure out some way to stabilize that, because I'm sure it would make a rattling sound. But I think the big things are I need to take the air cleaner off so I can get the fuel line off. And plus, at that point, I can figure out which way the carb needs to go, the carb lever needs to go. And then also, I need to figure out the electrical connections, and then I can undo the bolts and then lift it out. I'll just use a cherry picker, lift the engine out, figure out how it connects. Looks like there's an adapter on the back of the engine, and we'll pick it out and we will go from there. So I've got to figure out why all these switches are on here. So some of that will just require me to dig into the wiring as I go, but that's what we're gonna do. So let me go get the camera set up, and we'll start taking everything apart. All right, so this thing's metric. I've already loosened these 10mm bolts here. I thought I had. So this is just the cover for the throat of the carburetor, I would assume. Yep, there's the throat of the carb right there. And then this attaches the air filter assembly. Mouse just right in here. Oh, good, he ran back out. This attaches the air cleaner assembly to the engine. So now we can set that off to the side without dropping nuts and bolts everywhere, preferably. I think I'm going to go ahead. Looks like this this gasket's torn right here, so I'll have to pay attention to that when I put it back together. So let's see here. This is the choke right here. So forward is choke. That is no choke. Okay. So forward is choke. That way is no choke. Looks like that should have been in the air cleaner somehow. Fuel line. What that connects to. Huh. So realistically, I guess I can undo the fuel line there. Didn't necessarily need to take this off. I just want to make sure there's nothing sitting in there. This is the intake off of the flywheel of the engine. Here is a wire right here going somewhere. I'm concerned those are the only wires that I am seeing on the surface. There is a group of wires over here that are plugged in. I guess this is the old, I don't think if you can see that. Let me grab the camera. So Over here, this is the starter. Here is a group of wires that connect to the wiring harness. And I don't know why, if that's the only wires that are there, I don't know why we have all that extra stuff on there. Because theoretically I should just be able to pull these apart like that. And now pull our remaining foam out of there. And now we should theoretically be able to pull this engine out pretty easily. PTO is not hooked up, so I don't have to worry about that. The ground runs through where does the ground go? Oh, so this isn't a Bendix, this is the older styled Bendix starter. So there's a solenoid in there, so I'm gonna have to take the battery tray out to let the negative, the ground cable go on the starter. So we'll have to pay attention to that when we hook this up. So, all right, well that gives me a little help. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the battery cables and the battery, and then I'll go ahead and remove the battery tray. We'll look down in there. We'll see if we can figure out all these extra wires. So we'll work on that. All right, working on taking this engine out. I think the easiest way to do it is, it looks like they've got this engine. So this is the mount for the engine, if you can see the tip of my finger right here. And then there's two metal plates that they've cut that go into the original mounting holes for the Onan. So I think what I'm gonna do is just use they're 9/16 from best I can tell. So it doesn't seem like they're very tight either. So I'm just gonna use a long extension. Might have to move the camera to do this. They look like they're just flange bolts or flange nuts. So I'm guessing they're flange bolts as well. Those are 9/16. Oh, hey, don't even need to do anything with the top part. Just spin it right off. That was easy. So I'm going to go ahead. So there's one of four. Need to keep these for later. So we'll need these to mount it in the other tractor. Set those off to the side. The one in the back of the engine is going to be a little bit tougher to get to, but I don't think it'll present too much of a problem. Nope. The tie rod's in the way just a little bit, but nothing too terrible. Okay. So there's two out. Now I can go do the other side. But before I do that, I'll pick up the camera and give you an update on everything I've done so far. So one of the things that I did not mention in the previous part, make sure when you are removing these air cleaners and you've got little bolts and everything, make sure you put like a paper towel or some duct tape over the intake for the carburetor, or if not, you can stand to lose some nuts and bolts down in there, which would be no fun to get off. Got the battery out, and I don't know what I was thinking earlier when I was talking earlier in the video about this down here. That's actually the positive for the battery, so that's actually the battery power. Comes to, since this was originally a B43 engine, comes to the solenoid that's down here. That's what controls the starter. Trying to figure out all these extra wires and stuff like that. This switch right here was for I finally traced the wires. That switch right there is for a plug, or a kind of quasi plug back here in the back. I'm guessing this was for a sprayer. There's those wires right there. And then I can't figure out the purpose of this switch right here. It connects to this orange wire right there, but the orange wire gets lost in the harness, and there's several orange wires, and some of them go into the time delay control module, so on and so forth. So not really sure what that orange wire is doing, unless it is powering the time delay control module, which just seems weird, for lack of a better term. So I think what I'm going to do, my concern is taking this engine out of here. We're going to take and we're going to put it in that frame right there, because that's a nice frame. But what we're going to end up struggling with is how to run, well, actually there's a couple things we're going to end up struggling with. One, I don't have the correct drive shaft. Do I? So this would be a B series drive shaft, I think. We'll have to see when we get it out. I may not be able to put that engine in that tractor without a good B series drive shaft. This one's got some wear in it that I don't like. So I'm gonna have to work on that. Think about it. Lots of little, if you can't tell, there's lots of little nuances you have to be concerned with when you're doing something like this, in terms of making sure something fits. Since these are a kit engine, the kit was purchased for the B series Onan, which is slightly different than the P series in terms of starter, also in terms of the drive shaft. The drive shaft on the P series is shorter or longer than the B series, so we'll have to work on that. But going back to the electrical connection, that tractor right there had the solenoid shift style, so there's going to be some differences in the wiring harness for that machine compared to the 83 behind me that the engine is currently in. So gonna have to scratch my head a little bit. Key thing in this video is we're gonna get the engine out. So I'm gonna go get these other two bolts out, then get the chain hooked up to it. We'll get the cherry picker over here. We'll go ahead and pick this engine up. I'm just gonna pull it out, drive shaft and all at one time. That seems to be the easiest way to do things. And then we'll go ahead and get it down on the ground and look at it from there. So off we go. All right, let's see if we can get this engine out of here. Always a good sign when it just comes up nice and easy. The last thing I need to do is the fuel line, which I think I'm just going to cut. So I'm going to go get a it's going to leak a little bit of fuel with the lines out of the tank, so not too worried about it. I'm actually going to move the camera back a bit. That way I've got some more room to maneuver the lift. Figures. Forgot to remove the ground cable. I think anytime somebody, I can't remember a single time where I've unhooked everything I needed to at one time. That would be way too easy. Okay. Now we'll see if we can go up a little more. I'll try to tilt the engine back a little bit. I think everything is free. Now it's just a matter of the drive shaft. I'm going to lower it down a little bit. Okay. It's really going to rain now. I don't know if you can hear any of that on video. It wasn't supposed to rain, I'll put it that way. It is caught on something. I don't know what. This is just a little bit of a patience game. If you're patient with it, it'll come out. You don't have to hurt yourself or anything. There we go. All right, so we got it now. Of course, now the problem becomes getting a cherry picker out from underneath it. There we go. There's our 23 horsepower Vanguard. Out of the tractor. You can give it a good once over. Like I said, this shaft is back here is a little worn out, so we'll have to figure that out. But all right, so now I can finish tearing down the rest of this machine and we can go from there. And because this frame right here has enough problems that it's just not any good. So I'm going to go ahead and part all this out, test what components I can, sell what components I can, keep the tires for something else, and let everything else go down the road. And then once I'm done with that, I will put this and that frame right there. At least that's the plan. We will see if we can make that happen. If not, basically if I need another drive shaft or something along those lines, I'll probably just sell this engine as it sits, because I really don't need it. I don't need another 318 right now. I've got gracious plenty of other 318s that I can work on. So let me get this all torn down and we will go from there.